All right, so I would outline the chunks of hair. And I would really look at how it grows out of your head. And then we talked about like outlining like any kind of value mapping that you did. So then I look for hair that's on top, and it should be a little bit lighter. So if I want this piece to look like it's in front of this piece, well then I'm gonna start with some lines that go in the direction of the hair. And then I want this piece to look like it's bending, so then I'm gonna add a little bit darker as it's bending away, a little bit darker where it's growing out. And I would keep that a little bit lighter, so then it looks like it's bending. So for like this piece, I would always add a couple lines in the direction of that piece, but to make this piece look like it's bending out, I'm gonna add some lines where it's sinking in. Lines and just kind of flick up a little bit. And then it looks like it's curving in and out. If there's an area that's like totally dark, I would not color it in solid. I mean, you can do lots and lots of lines in the direction of the hair, or like this area, maybe you would want to do like cross hatching, lots of hatching, and then I'd kind of fade it into the direction of the hair. So you could do curved hatching as well. But I would kind of, if you're gonna do cross hatching or even stippling, if you're gonna stipple all of your hair, because there are some of you that are just stippling, good luck. No, I'm just kidding. You might want to introduce one more technique besides stippling, and then, so let's say I would do like some hatching like this, and then do my like stippling fading out. So you kind of do need some line to indicate strands of hair. Anyway, so if I wanted this piece to look like it's in front of this piece, well then I would go darker in the piece that it's in front of. And so you might want to make a few marks with your pencil for direction. So you want, and that's exaggerated, but chunks that are on top or in front lighter, darker if they're behind. I would probably start out with just like kind of general lines for the hair, and then if you're going to do cross hatching, add it, or if you're going to add some other kind of technique, add it in there. All right, so that's for hair that has kind of motion to it. If you have straight hair, I would still look for motion, because you might still have a little bit of flow, like here it had a piece. And so I would look for areas that, let me go a little bit darker so you can see. They're usually like kind of V-shaped that pull up into the hair, areas that are a little bit darker. And then to make this look like it's bending a little bit, let's say the light is coming from even the front or the side. And if you don't have any kind of highlight in your hair, we're gonna fake it. I'd add a few lines. So this might be like where my highlight's going to be. All right. So it's sweeping kind of motion. So I would hold my Sharpie in the middle. I'd start at the root. Okay, and then I'd do some connecting, and then I would add in. And if your hair is dark, you're gonna do lots and lots of layering. I probably use both Sharpies. And I would at least do a final layer with the Sharpie pin so you have fine little line. So short kind of sweeping. And fade up into what you have. So then that way it looks like it's and I would do more obviously so it's darker on both ends, but that way it looks like it's bending. And then if your hair is darker and it's more subtle, then I would do a few more lines over it, but you still want a slightly darker area where the curve of your head is happening, which for some of you it's there, it's really subtle, some of you it's not there, and you can just add it in. You just want to make sure that it's a little bit lighter on the side where the light is coming from. All right, so then in areas where it's darker, I probably use the other, I don't have my other Sharpie up here, but like I literally would put in some of those darker kind of chunks. And then if you are going to do cross hatching or whatever besides just hatching, I would add it in there. But I would always fade it out into like strands that have direction. So you want to do some like kind of sweeping motion, and then some short, and then some long, because your hair is different lengths. Like you have some growing out of your heads, some longer, some short. Anyway, so I would do shadowy parts in there first as well. So I would really pay attention, because even if it's straight, it probably has some kind of movement. All right, then I have some people with braids, and if there's another type of hair that you have that I'm not demonstrating, because these are just kind of general generic demonstrations, let me know. All right, so if you have braids, then I obviously would outline what you have drawn. You want to draw like where the hair intertwines, and so I kind of make sure I'm going in different directions. So if it's going, I don't know, what is that? Left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left. So it looks like it's like crossing over. And then to get that one to look like it's braided, it's just like tiny little curls where you're going to go darker in the center, darker on the edges, and then a couple to fill in. So darker in the center, darker on the edges, kind of curved, and then a couple to fill in. Or darker on the edges, darker in the center. And then in between, I'd probably add a little bit of shadow in between each little braid. That should be the bulk of it. If your hair is shaved, then I'd, like, let's say, I don't know, this part was like shaved, or little tiny hairs, then I'd do like little tiny hatch lines in the direction of the hair. And then if it's buzzed, then I would just do little tiny like stippling. It's a mark making. Okay. So if you're looking at your hair and you're like, wow, I did not go dark enough for watercolor, or I didn't put any shadows in my hair, it's just flat, you might want to go back and do that, and I can always flatten your drawing, and then you can add more mark making on top. If you are going to add a lot of watercolor, I'd look for any areas that are lighter and avoid. You don't have to add more watercolor, but some of you'll save yourself time if you do another layer just so it's darker, because ultimately you're trying to match the contrast in your photo. So if your hair is dark, obviously you're going to have a lot of mark making and a dark color there. All right.